Somebody found this picture. I have it a framed one that I brought. I was going to put it up, but this one's a little, yeah, so beautiful. And I tried to find out the story behind it, but I wasn't able to. Does anyone else know the story behind it? I can guess. So my guess is there's probably a crowd of people, and a little child in the crowd held up his or her little friend, this little lamb. It looks kind of well used and well loved. And held it up for the Dalai Lama, and he took it and held it to his cheek and blessed it. That's my thought. I don't know. Blessed it. And I'm sure the child was really happy. I mean, can you imagine having the Dalai Lama bless your little friend? And just the expression on his face, it's just so beautiful. I mean, for me, this is a bodhisattva. This is how a bodhisattva looks at us and all other sentient beings. So let's do our prayers, and then we'll do a little bit of meditation. So take a few minutes to make sure that you're settled down in a comfortable, relaxed position in your body, and your mind is also settled down in the present, leaving aside thoughts of the past, the future, other places, and so on. So yesterday I talked about how we can sometimes feel overwhelmed by suffering and may be in a state of despair, depression, hopelessness. So see if you can recall if you ever had that experience, either with your own suffering, some kind of problem you were going through, or problems experienced by someone else you know, or by something going on in the world. So try to remember if you ever had that feeling of overwhelm and sadness, very deep sadness and despair, feeling, oh, there's no hope, nothing that can be done. And then take a step back from that state of mind and ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this a useful state of mind? or is it not helpful? And we do have a choice about what goes on in our mind, whether or not to get caught up and remain in states of mind that are like that are unhappy, depressed, or angry, or feeling hopeless. So just because such thoughts, such feelings arise in our mind, doesn't mean we have to buy into them and get stuck in them. We do have a choice. There are other things we can do with our mind that are more constructive, more beneficial. So one of these is to contemplate the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha. Basically, that suffering exists, it's a reality, it's part of our life in samsara, cyclic existence. So it's inevitable. It's going to happen again and again as long as we're in samsara. But suffering has causes. The main causes are in our minds, mainly ignorance about the true nature of things, other afflicted states like attachment, anger, jealousy, pride, and so on. And karma, actions done under the motivation of these afflicted states of mind. So even though we don't want these in our mind, we'd like to be free of them, we have no choice at the moment. They're with us from birth, from past lives. But the good news is that they are not permanent. They're not fixed, permanent aspects of our mind. They are impermanent. Even now, they come and go. They're not always there. And it is possible to eradicate them completely, to make our minds completely free of these causes of suffering. That's the meaning of the third noble truth, true cessation. The cessation of the causes of suffering, afflicted states of mind, and karma. So that is possible. The Buddha did it and taught how it can be done. So his teachings on how to be free of suffering and its causes form the path, the fourth noble truth. And there's different ways of explaining the path. Probably one of the most succinct ways is in terms of what are called 3 higher trainings, which are ethics, living ethically, refraining from what is non-virtuous, doing what is virtuous as much as we can, trying to avoid harming others and ourselves. And then the second is concentration, learning to train our mind to be able to stay focused on an object of choice as long as possible. And then wisdom. That's the main antidote to the afflicted states of mind. Understanding how things exist, their real nature, So that's the direct antidote to ignorance and all the other afflictions. So we're very fortunate that we had the chance to learn these teachings, and we have causes and conditions to be able to practice them. So instead of being overwhelmed by the suffering in the world, it makes more sense to make the determination to learn and practice these teachings to the best of our ability. And that is something we can do about suffering, about problems. And also helpful is that verse from Shantideva, which basically says, what's the use of being unhappy about problems if there's a remedy? So in other words, if there's something you can do about a problem, whether it's your own problem or someone else's or out there in the world, if there's something you can do, do it. Just sitting around being unhappy isn't useful. And on the other hand, if there's nothing that can be done, it's also useless to be unhappy. Better to just accept the situation and again put your energy into practice, practicing the path leading to liberation from suffering, leading to enlightenment. So in conclusion, see if you can make the resolution that next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or very sad or hopeless, pessimistic about some problem, that you'll remember these ideas or other ideas that you know of that can help you get out of that state and into a more positive, constructive one. So I have this clear memory of this experience of being overwhelmed. November the 5th of 2016. I wasn't even here. I was over in Europe, but I was concerned about who was going to win the election. And when I heard the result, I really sank into a state of despair and, oh no. And I was stuck in that state for a while, probably maybe half a day. And then, and then I roused myself. I said, this is useless, and thought of different things like, we just do what we can. That's all we can do. We can't change the world. We can't change people. We can't change external situations, but we can change our own mind. And reminded myself of how fortunate I was to have the Dharma with all these methods, all these tools to transform one's own mind. And then offer some benefit to others as much as possible. So that really helped me to get out of that state of being overwhelmed. So it happens a lot these days. I guess it happened a lot during the pandemic. Many people really suffered from what was going on, and with environmental problems, climate crisis, wars, and all these unpleasant things happening in the world. So we need to be careful. We don't want to close off. Sometimes that is what people do. They just close off. I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. They just stay in their own little bubble, their own little world. And that's not helpful, especially in terms of our spiritual practice. We want, it's an essential quality in order to progress on the path, to develop compassion. We need to have compassion. And in order to have compassion, we do need to be aware of suffering and problems and not close ourselves off to those, pretend they don't exist. So we do need to open up to the suffering and problems of others. But we need to do it in a way that, we don't get overwhelmed by it. And I did read in one of the books by the Dalai Lama, he said, if you're a person who is prone to depression, it may be better not to think about suffering too much. And I was glad, I was happy to read that because, different people have different mental states and so on. And some people are naturally more positive and optimistic and happy and joyful, and they're able to see the bright side of things. But then other people struggle with that and tend to see the dark side of things. My parents were a perfect example of that. My mother was just so positive and optimistic. She was always able to see the positive side of things. My father was just the opposite. Like all he could see was the negative side of things. But yeah, so because of our karma and our, conditioning and various other factors, then we may be one or the other. But probably everybody has both sides. There's certain times when, we struggle to be optimistic. So I was happy reading that comment by His Holiness, because it also makes it really clear that the point of being aware of suffering, meditating on suffering, is not to become depressed. And so if we see that happening, then, we need to make some adjustments there, do things differently, pull ourselves back from that, and then remind ourselves of positive things. It's not all that bad. Yes, there's suffering, but there's a lot of good things as well. So we need to, not let our mind keep going in that direction of being depressed. Then we just get more and more depressed, and that's not helpful. So I think we do need to pay attention to our mind and keep a balance, to have a certain awareness, a certain amount of awareness of suffering, so that it arouses our compassion and our energy to practice, but not too much, such that we end up feeling overwhelmed and depressed and so on. And other places where His Holiness has talked about compassion, he says, genuine compassion gives strength and courage. So somebody who's compassionate isn't somebody who's like crying all the time and falling apart. But rather, again, you need to know how to do this, and it may take a while before you learn how to do it, but having enough awareness of suffering that it arouses your compassion, but not so much that you feel helpless and hopeless, because then it's kind of immobilizing. You can get kind of immobilized and paralyzed with depression, and like if you see things as helpless or hopeless, then it's like, what's the point of doing anything? It's not going to work. So one does need to have a certain amount of hope and optimism and courage strength and courage. So His Holiness sometimes talks about that, compassion gives courage. So if you've got it right, if you got that right balance, that right, mix of awareness of suffering and hope that something can be done about it, then it gives you courage, energy, strength to do what you can, and not drown in unhappiness. Okay, so just a little bit more about compassion. Although there's a lot more that could be said, but we're running out of time. So we went through a list of benefits of love, loving kindness, which are explained by the Buddha and other masters like Nagarjuna. And I haven't come across a list of benefits of compassion, but I think they're there. So I've kind of put together some things that are there in the teachings that are benefits of compassion. So one thing they say is that compassion is important in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of our practice. So it's important all the way through our practice. And this is found in, it's probably in numerous places, but one place is in Chandrakirti's text, the Madhyamakavatara, supplement to the middle way or entering the middle way. And it's a really beautiful text. And right at the beginning of the text, he expresses praise of compassion. And you can find those verses downstairs, in case you haven't already noticed them, downstairs in the entranceway, where there's this beautiful statue of Kuan Yin. So on the wall there is a, big sign, I guess, with the verses of praise or homage to compassion, praise to compassion, from Chandrakirti's text. And so basically he says, compassion is important in the beginning. And there's this analogy of growing crops. So he says compassion is like the seed for crops, just like, if you want to grow barley or wheat or rice or whatever, you need seeds. That's where it all starts. You have to have seeds. So he says compassion is like the seed that gets us going on the path, motivates us to start following this path, especially the Bodhisattva's path to enlightenment. Awareness of suffering, wanting to do something about it, wanting to relieve suffering, then here is a way to do it. Follow this path to enlightenment. And then he also says compassion is also like the water. So it's not enough just to have a seed, you need water. Once the seed is moistened, then it will start to grow, turn into a sprout, and then into a little plant. But you need to keep adding water to it. If it doesn't get water, then it's going to dry up and die and won't be able to bring its result. So in a similar way, on the path, we need a continuous rain of compassion on our, the little seed of compassion. We need to continue nurturing that, watering that, so that it does continue to grow. And it's an essential aspect of our whole path, all the way up to enlightenment. It keeps us from doing harmful things to others and motivates us to do beneficial things to others, and to put our energy into practicing so that we do reach enlightenment and don't give up, don't go off somewhere else and give up the practice. So compassion then is needed continuously, in the same way that water is needed continuously to grow crops. And then the end in terms of crops is when you have the result. You have your barley plants or rice plants or tomato plants, and they're, producing these yummy, delicious things for us to eat. And in the path, the end is Buddhahood. becoming fully enlightened, where you have all these wonderful qualities, abilities, and so on to be able to help sentient beings, and you're able to help sentient beings continuously 24/7. So again, compassion is needed, because if you didn't have compassion, I mean, it would be impossible to be a Buddha and not have compassion. But if you were Buddha and you didn't have compassion, then you just sit back and retire and enjoy yourself and not work to help sentient beings. I mean, that would never happen. But it just shows that even, when you're already enlightened, you've reached your goal, compassion is what motivates you to work for sentient beings and take care of them and lead them to enlightenment as well. So that's showing how important compassion is. Also, it's important for other aspects of the path, like on the Bodhisattva path. There's the 6 perfections: giving, ethics, patience, and so on. So compassion is needed for those. It motivates giving. When we notice somebody is in need, whether it's a human being or an animal or whatever, and they're suffering, in need of something, we do what we can to give them what they need, help them with what they need. So it's necessary for giving. And then for ethics, the basis of ethics in Buddhism is compassion. Understanding that nobody wants to suffer, and therefore I'm going to live my life as much as possible in a non-harmful way, not harming other sentient beings, living a non-harmful life as much as I can, and helping others as much as I can. So that's basically what ethics is all about in Buddhism. And then patience is also, compassion is needed. Even if somebody is doing things that are harmful to ourselves or harmful to others, we might still have some feelings of anger coming up, and maybe even thoughts of wanting to, retaliate, get back at this person, make them suffer. They deserve it. So even if those kind of thoughts come up in our mind, if we have strong compassion, that will enable us to not let ourselves follow those thoughts and act them out, and instead, generate compassion for this person. So those are just examples of how important compassion is for our practice, but also for our happiness. Just to be a happy person, have a happy state of mind. It's really important to have compassion, this concern for other people and other living beings, understanding they want to be happy and don't want to suffer just like me, and living our life with that awareness, really trying not to harm them, trying to be kind to them. So if we have compassion in our life, then we'll be a happier person here and now. We won't be doing things that hurt others and that we would then feel bad about, regret about, and so on. And there's also different types of compassion. Again, in Chandrakirti's text, the Madhyamaka Vatara, he talks about these, but I don't think he invented them. I think they come from the sutras or other Buddhist scriptures. So there's 3 types of compassion. The first is called just ordinary compassion or mere compassion, and that is when we observe suffering, some being that is suffering, and are just moved by that and want them to be free of suffering, want to do what we can to relieve their suffering. And it's not conjoined with awareness of impermanence or emptiness or any sort of higher understandings, but it's just that kind of immediate bare compassion, responding to the suffering of another. And then the second type of compassion is called compassion observing phenomena. And it's the same as the first, except that it's in the mind of somebody who has realized impermanence. And so this person, I don't know to what extent they need to have that realization, but anyway, they have this good, strong understanding that the sentient beings they are observing who are suffering are impermanent. They're changing. They're not just subject to aging and death, but every moment, subtle impermanence, every single moment, they are changing. There's nothing fixed, nothing permanent there. But still, they are suffering, and observing their suffering, you feel moved and want to help them. So it's taking, I don't have that kind of compassion. I don't have the realization of impermanence, but I can imagine that it's, quite a different thing to, and for one thing, like we've been talking about, it having that awareness of impermanence, that realization of impermanence helps to stop attachment, which often limits our compassion only to those that are pleasing to us, attractive to us, and so on. So with the understanding of impermanence, then you see all sentient beings, all living beings as subject to change and are changing moment by moment. So there's no fixed, permanent, sentient being there, but still there is suffering, and the appropriate response is compassion. And then the third type of compassion is called compassion observing the unapprehendable. A little complicated terminology there, but this is compassion in the mind of a person who has realized emptiness, that oneself and all other beings and all phenomena are empty of inherent independent existence. So this is really profound. There there's no inherently existing sentient being anywhere, yet conventionally there are sentient beings, merely labeled sentient beings, merely labeled in relation to their aggregates, and they are suffering. They're suffering there. And so you're still moved by that suffering, and you want to relieve that suffering, you want to help them. But there's no grasping at inherently existing sentient beings. So your mind is affected by that wisdom, the incredible wisdom of emptiness. So we don't have time to go into these, but if you are interested in learning more, then again, that book I mentioned, In Praise of Great Compassion, has a whole chapter explaining these 3 types of compassion. It's really beautiful, really profound. So if you're interested in this topic of compassion and love and bodhicitta and so on, that is a must. That book is a must. Fantastic. And of course, we're looking at a huge array of different methods and techniques, and you may be feeling kind of overwhelmed by all of these and wonder, how do I possibly practice all of these? I heard that in Tibet, sometimes students would live with their teacher. They were living together, and the teacher would give just a little bit of instruction at a time to a student and tell them to go off and meditate on that. And they'd meditate for a while, and then when they get some experience, they'd come back and the teacher would give them the next dose, the next step. So that sounds like a really ideal way of doing things, rather than just being, inundated with this huge amount of material that you can't possibly practice all of right now. But because of, we don't always have the chance to live with our teacher and be in a hermitage type situation where we can be meditating on the teacher's instructions little by little and then get the next step when we're ready for it. So not many people have that opportunity. So that's why, there's this other way of teaching where you teach it all at once, the whole path, you learn at once. And then it's up to each person to, depending on your ability and your lifestyle and how much time you have and so on, then to practice according to that. So one way of doing that is if you have the chance to do a daily meditation. For example, you could do this sadhana of Chenrezig. It's pretty short and sweet. If you like doing that, you could make that your daily practice. And then before the sadhana or somewhere within the sadhana, just spending some time, even if it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, contemplating one of these points that we're learning about, different steps for developing bodhicitta, and doing a different one every day. So in that way, your mind stays fresh. You don't completely forget what you've learned, and you're getting more familiar. Gradually, you're getting more and more familiar with these different steps, these different points. That's one way that some people practice. Another way would be to choose one point, like equanimity, for example, the first step towards developing bodhicitta, and then just keep doing that one over and over and over again every day until you feel it's time to move on to something else. So there's no fixed way that everybody should follow. Those are a few of the alternatives, and you can try one of those or try finding some other way that works for you. And even if you don't have the time to meditate, or meditating is really hard for you, another thing would be to get a book, to have a book like that one, the In Praise of Great Compassion, or there's lots of other books as well that talk about bodhicitta, how to develop love, compassion, bodhicitta, and then read a little bit every day, even just a paragraph, and then spend some time reflecting on that and try to remember it as you go through your day and do whatever you do. So that's also a kind of way of reflecting on and familiarizing yourself with these points. Okay, so then that was step number 5, compassion. And then step 6 in the, no, we're not there yet. Yeah, that one. Step 6 is called, there's different ways of translating it. Here it's called the extraordinary intention. Other places it's called the great resolve. Yeah. So this arises in the mind as a result of meditating on the previous steps, ideally again and again over a long period of time, such that you feel this closeness to sentient beings, not just a limited number like your family and friends, but all sentient beings. You have good reasons to feel close to all sentient beings because you realize they've been really helpful to you. And then you build on that by developing the wish to repay their kindness and love, compassion, and so on. So making your mind familiar with these thoughts, these attitudes again and again and again, they grow ever stronger. And ideally, you get to the point where you don't want to just leave it up to somebody else to help sentient beings, but you want to do it yourself. A sense of responsibility. So that's something that already happens naturally. Like with our parents, if we do recognize what they've done for us, how kind they've been to us, then whenever they need help, we just drop everything and, do whatever we can to help them, to take care of them. So that's just the natural response to that kind of relationship where someone has helped us so much, has been so kind to us. We don't feel, oh, somebody else will take care of my mother. I'll ask my neighbor to go and take care of my mother. Unless you're of course, if you're incapable, if you're paralyzed and you can't actually help her, then you call somebody else. But as long as you are healthy and capable, then if your mother or father is in need of help, you drop everything and go and help them. It's just that feeling of responsibility. Or the same with children. If you're a parent, you feel when your child needs help, it's up to you. You have to take care of them, not somebody else. So that's just a natural human response. And not just human, animals also. Yeah? They have this amazing instinct, they call it, this attitude of taking care of their young, their offspring. So, so then this is what we're trying to develop with regard to all sentient beings. It's my responsibility to ensure that they have the happiness that they wish for and that they are free of the suffering that they don't want. And so that's the meaning of the Great Resolve. So the Great Resolve is when you decide to take on this responsibility to take care of all sentient beings without exception. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure they are free of suffering and its causes, and that they have happiness and its causes. So that's the meaning of this sixth point, the extraordinary intention. And the seventh step is actual bodhicitta. And so when you do have that state of mind that says, I am going to take care of all sentient beings, then you have to be realistic and practical. How? How can I do that? How can I possibly help them all be happy and free of suffering? I mean, at this point in time, I'm very limited in what I can do. Often it's hard to make ourselves happy and free from suffering, much less others. But we've heard about enlightenment, Buddhahood, the state that the Buddha achieved. And earlier in the Lam Rim, or in other sources of information, we learn about the various qualities of a Buddha, the qualities of enlightenment. So what's it like being a Buddha? What kind of experiences do they have? What kind of abilities do they have? And so on. So one would be familiar with those. And so one would think about that and then think, well, if I could be a Buddha, if I could reach that state, then I would be able to help all sentient beings. So just to mention a few of the qualities, a Buddha, one of the things I always found really inspiring and amazing about enlightenment is the explanation of the four kayas, or the word kaya is often translated as body, but we shouldn't think of it as this kind of body made of flesh, blood, bones, and so on, but more like, one translation is corpus, and it could also be translated as corpus. So it's not a physical body so much as collection of qualities, maybe. But anyway, they're called kaya. And so, and also there's different ways of enumerating the kayas. It gets kind of complicated, but one way is in terms of four kayas. So one of those is called the Dharmakaya, or strictly speaking, it's the Jnana Dharmakaya, which is the wisdom body of the Buddha. And this is the Buddha's mind, which is fully enlightened, meaning all afflictions and obscurations, everything that's problematic, wrong, negative, and so on in the mind has been totally eradicated forever. It will never come back. So it's like totally free of everything that's negative or mistaken. And then all the good qualities, the positive qualities, things like love and compassion and patience and generosity and so on, whatever good qualities there are, and of course wisdom, those have been fully developed such that they are at the highest state possible. And they're there all the time, always present, not on and off like our good qualities. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. But in the case of a Buddha, they're always present every moment. And yeah, so that's the Dharmakaya, the enlightened mind. And then another of the bodies is, it's different terms for it, but I'll just use the English term, nature body. And that refers to the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, the ultimate nature of the Buddha's mind, emptiness of inherent existence, the fact that that mind doesn't exist inherently, independently, objectively, truly, but is dependent, a dependent phenomenon. And emptiness is the nature of everything. It's the nature of our minds and all other phenomena as well. But the emptiness of a Buddha's mind is unique because, the emptiness itself, the quality of emptiness itself is the same, but the basis of that emptiness, because it's enlightened mind, this amazing, fully purified, fully developed state of mind. So then it's said that the emptiness of that mind is something special, and that's called a nature body. And then those first two kayas are related to the Buddha's mind, and then the other two kayas are form bodies that a Buddha is able to manifest and emanate and send out to help sentient beings, because that's the whole purpose of reaching enlightenment. You want to help sentient beings, and to help sentient beings, they have to be able to perceive you. They can't see the Dharmakaya. Yeah, that's inaccessible to sentient beings. But so out of the Dharmakaya will manifest in forms that can be seen by sentient beings to be able to teach them and guide them and help them in their practice. So one of those forms is called the Sambhogakaya, or the complete enjoyment body. And that's a special type of form that appears only to Arya bodhisattvas who have the direct realization of emptiness. And so they're getting close. They're not yet enlightened, but they're, getting close to enlightenment. So they need kind of special teaching, special instructions. And so the Sambhogakaya will appear to them and teach them and guide them. And then for ordinary beings who are not Arya bodhisattvas, there's the Nirmanakaya, or emanation body, and not just one, but many. So a Buddha is able to manifest in countless different forms, countless different bodies at the same time. And they could appear, like for us in our world, they could appear as human beings, or they could appear as animals. Maybe that little squirrel was actually a emanation of the Buddha to help this woman arouse compassion and, practice giving, generosity. It's possible. So they do sometimes manifest as beings who are in need of help, like beggars or dogs, wounded dogs, hungry dogs, or whatever. So there's stories like that. So those are some of the ways that enlightened beings can help sentient beings, by arousing their compassion and their, wish to give and enable them to give. But they also manifest as teachers, teaching the Dharma. And and even inanimate objects, trees and bridges and so on, cars. I don't know. So it's up to an enlightened mind to see a situation where there's some sentient beings who are in need and know intuitively what will be the best thing for them, what will be helpful for them, and especially in terms of learning the Dharma and practicing the Dharma. So I really love that explanation of these different kayas, or different aspects, you might say, of enlightenment, how Buddhas are able to help sentient beings. And everything that a Buddha does, all their activities, are always motivated by compassion, pure, genuine, unconditional compassion and love, and they also have this wisdom, ongoing wisdom about the true nature of everyone and everything. So they're totally free of grasping at inherent existence, grasping at things in an incorrect way. But they see everything all the time correctly as it is. So anyway, that's just a little bit about the qualities of the Buddha, but ideally you learn about all the different qualities and abilities of a Buddha, and then you decide that's what I have to do. That's the only way that I can help all sentient beings to be free of suffering and get out of samsara and reach enlightenment, the highest state of happiness. So that's bodhicitta. So bodhicitta then is this aspiration, although I think maybe it's more like determination. Not just, oh, I would like to reach enlightenment, but I will reach enlightenment. I'm going for it. That's what I'm going to do. And the whole reason for that is to help sentient beings, not for your own benefit, although you will benefit. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, but your motivation that you've been developing for a long time through these different meditations is helping sentient beings, seeing that they have been kind to you so many times, so many ways, so many lifetimes. So I just feel I have to do this. I must do this. So I was thinking maybe after this session, the next session meditation, are you leading that? Yeah. Yeah, that maybe you could do a meditation to just sort of review all these 7 points, spend a few minutes on each one, and that will help to get a sense of these last two. We're doing it in a speedy way, but again, if you were meditating on these again and again over a long period of time, then they would reach the point of being genuine and strong and pure and powerful. And that's how bodhicitta arises in the mind.
It might be related to these last two. Like in the Heart Sutra, when we chant it, it's the Bodhisattva, the great being, or Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. And I've heard different explanations of what the Mahasattva is referring to. What is your understanding of that?
I'd have to look that up. I don't know offhand. I'll try to find an answer to that. But yeah, it could be there are different answers, as you've probably encountered before. Different scholars, writers, teachers, and so on can have different opinions about things, and it's not that one is wrong and one is right, others are wrong, but yeah, just sort of, because often, when the Buddha himself taught in his teachings, he didn't always explain terminology that he used, so that left it up to later masters to try to figure out what did he mean by that, and they come up with different views.
In terms of these 7 points, to get to the great resolve, where is the inferential, at least the realization of emptiness in process here? To get to number 6, is it all from the method side, or is the realization of emptiness somewhere along the line, someplace where it's a requisite to get to the bodhicitta, or you don't need it for this particular?
You don't. They say that there's 2 ways that bodhisattvas develop these qualities. There are some bodhisattvas who develop the wisdom realizing emptiness first, and then later bodhicitta. But there are other bodhisattvas who do it the other way around. They develop bodhicitta first, and then the realization of emptiness. So either way, but they would still be working on both. I mean, I don't think there could be a bodhisattva who has bodhicitta and never heard about emptiness, and never, was meditating on emptiness. So they would have a good understanding of emptiness, if not the actual realization. But yeah, you don't have to realize emptiness before developing bodhicitta.
How have you worked with, I guess, the conventional taking responsibility for helping others, especially in the form of caring for your parents? Like, I could spend a lot of time trying to help them in different ways that I think is helpful, but what's more important is probably my Dharma practice and not helping them in the conventional ways. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer to that. And yeah, every situation is different. So there's no kind of, one way that everyone should follow. I feel quite fortunate in that, my parents were able to manage on their own. And there are siblings as well who could help out, even though I was on the other side of the world most of the time. Yeah, but then if one or both of your parents is in need, and you just have to check the situation and check with teachers, and they might hopefully they would give advice. So you just have to try to figure that one out. Because also, even if, say, a parent is ill and needs physical help, but you have to check, if I were to go and stay with them and help them, would that be good for me? Would that be good for my mind? Because I found with myself, with my parents, even though I managed to overcome, the gross problems that I had with them, but I also noticed that when I did go home and stay with them, the longer I stayed, the more likely my old kind of habitual tendencies would come up. So I wasn't sure about my ability to, be there full time and take care of them. That would be very challenging. So you also have to check your own abilities and, But I do know a couple of monastics who did stay with a parent, taking care of them, in one case for years. Her mother, I don't know what she had, but it took her a long time as she was going through this process of illness and then finally dying. So, I mean, there are alternatives as well, like hospices and care facilities, which also might be able to offer better care. I think Venerable Tarpa came to that realization as well, that she stayed with her mother for quite a while, but I know she told me this, that there were certain things that her mother needed that she wasn't able to do herself. So even for her mother's sake, it was better to have professional help come in and help her with those things. So there's so many different factors, you have to look at and maybe try different things before you work out what would be the best solution. In my own case, my father passed away about 6 years before my mother, and then she lived on her own, and I went home to visit just before starting the master's program in Italy, which is something I really wanted to do. And I had to come back to this country to get a visa to be able to stay in Italy. And my visit home to get my visa coincided with my mother being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so it was kind of a dilemma for me, because I had this great wish to, go back to Italy and do this study program. But my mother was on her way out, and I really wanted to be with her. I really wanted to do whatever I could to stay with her. And at one point, I mentioned that to her, and I said, maybe I can change my air ticket. And she said, "No way! I don't want you to interrupt your life for me. I'll go into a hospice. I'll go into a care facility." So her attitude was just amazing. I, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what I would have done in the end, but she didn't. Yeah, she left very quickly, which is what she wanted to do. She actually said, "I don't want to. I don't want to linger. I don't want to. I hope it happens fast." She really said that, and it did. It was quite quick. So it was just a couple of weeks from the time that the diagnosis was given until she passed away. But I was really grateful that I was there with her for the last couple of weeks and could, do little things to help her out, and was with her right up to the end. So that was quite an amazing experience. Yeah. So I think when Venerable Tarpa went home to take care of her mother, I think she thought it was not going to be long, but then it ended up being quite long. How long was she there?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, and her mother is still going. But yeah, and then she decided to come back, and there's lots of things to do here, and then there were other people to take care of her mother. So yeah, sometimes you just have to try different things, hopefully find the best solution.
You don't necessarily need to answer this now, but something I'd like to know before we leave is, you mentioned how to fit these points into this sadhana, but what if, like in Retreat from Afar, we did the Shakyamuni Buddha sadhana? I know some people also have Tara. I'm kind of new to having all this. How do you decide what to do? Do you pick what you have the most affinity for, or at a certain...
Yeah, so I think whatever practice you're doing, like the Shakyamuni practice or a Tara practice, one way you could do it would be I think the meditations here, you're doing Lamrim meditation first before the sadhana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one way. The way it's being done here in the sessions is start with a Lamrim meditation, one of the, meditating on one or more of these points, and spend however much time you want on that, and then do the sadhana. So that will really enrich the practice of the sadhana rather than just sitting down, going right into it. You'll have a much stronger feeling for why you're doing it, and so on. Or another alternative is to fit it in the sadhana, like maybe just before the mantra recitation, do some meditation. So there's no fixed way that everybody has to follow. You can find your own way. Maybe you can try a few different ways and see what works best for you.
And then, like, beyond using the Lamrim, though, so this is the four-arm Chenrezig. There's also, 1,000-arm Chenrezig. People have Tara. I've just done Shakyamuni Buddha. How do you fit in if you have these different sadhanas? Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but... Well,
you don't need to do a Lamrim meditation every time you do a sadhana. That's not necessary. There are people who do a number of sadhanas every day, sometimes because of a commitment or just personal choice. So if you're doing several sadhanas per day, then if you have time and energy, you could do some Lamrim meditation with each one. But you could also just do it with one of your sadhanas and not with the others. Yeah. It really depends on how much time you have, how much energy and ability, and so on. Often with the sadhanas themselves, like the prayers, the words of the sadhana often contain elements of the Lamrim. Like, I don't have my copy with me, but in the Chenrezig sadhana, there's this little verse in the mandala offering. There's the usual mandala offering, and then there's this really lovely little verse about Yeah, yeah. So if you're reading it mindfully, you can be remembering the things that you know about those aspects of the Lamrim. And other sadhanas might contain something about impermanence and death or emptiness or whatever. So there's often places in the sadhana itself that are reminders of these Lamrim topics.
Often with empowerments, we get commitments to do things, not always, but sometimes, and then you would be doing something daily. But if you don't have commitments to do these daily, like with the lay-led practice, they'll take one sadhana and it rotates. Sometimes it's Shakyamuni Buddha, sometimes it's Tara, sometimes it's Chenrezig, Medicine Buddha. So that can just be like a basis for a daily practice. It's not like you have to do it every day. You can if you like. But I think what's helpful is to figure out how much time can I commit to my practice every day? And then what do I want to fit in that? What's most important to fit in that daily practice?
And you can change. Like the winter retreat here, there's always like the first month is open to people who can only do 1 month. And then other people can come for the entire 3 months. That's how it's usually done. And then there's also people who do it from afar. They don't come here physically, but they do the same practice that's done here and wherever they are. And every year it's a different topic. So sometimes it's Vajrasattva. Last year it was the 4 mindfulnesses. This year it's going to be the 4 truths and refuge. So that's something you can do on your own as well. You can, at different times, focus on different practices, and that way you get familiar with them. And people sometimes, if you have a day off where you're free, or a weekend to do a little retreat at home, and just set up a schedule similar to what we're doing here, and do your own little retreat on your own. That can be very healing and empowering and helpful.
Can you clarify the relationship between the kayas and bodhicitta? Are they
Between what?
the kayas, the 4 kinds,
Yeah.
and bodhicitta? Are they expressions of bodhicitta? What's the relationship again?
Well, bodhicitta is a state of mind. It's a particular state of mind. And, right now we're trying to develop bodhicitta. And so, we do some reflection, some meditation, and generate, at this point, it's contrived, not uncontrived bodhicitta. But we, try to think our way into that state of mind. So it's a state of mind. And then after, meditating on the points for developing bodhicitta for a long time, it does arise naturally in an uncontrived way. And that's the real meaning of bodhicitta. Real bodhicitta is when it just arises spontaneously on its own without having to think your way into it. And what I've learned is, so a bodhisattva is someone who has uncontrived bodhicitta. It's always present in their mind. It's always there. It may not always be there in a manifest way, like on the surface of the mind, but like when they're asleep or they're, busy doing something else, the bodhicitta never disappears from their mind. It's always there, at least in a non-manifest or a dormant way. So a bodhisattva is never without bodhicitta, that particular state of mind. So it's a state of mind. And so that's what motivates their practice and everything they do. Everything they do is motivated by bodhicitta. And then they follow the path and they become a Buddha. So now you're a Buddha. And there's this question, does a Buddha have bodhicitta? Well, there's debate about it. Different answers. Because, bodhicitta is the wish, the aspiration to become enlightened, to help all sentient beings, but you're already enlightened. So apparently some scholars say no, a Buddha doesn't have bodhicitta. Buddha doesn't need bodhicitta because Buddha's already enlightened. But other scholars say, but how can there be a Buddha without bodhicitta? So then for a Buddha, bodhicitta takes the form of aspiring to help all sentient beings reach enlightenment. So that's a Buddha's bodhicitta. It's no longer I want to become enlightened to help all sentient beings, but rather I want to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment. So anyway, that's just a topic that's debated by the scholars. So anyway, I side with those who say that a Buddha does have bodhicitta. So in the mind of a Buddha, there would be that particular aspect of mind, because we have many different minds. We usually use the term mind in the singular, as if mind is just one thing, but in fact, mind is multiple. It's plural. We have many, many minds. We have, our 6 senses, 6 ways of perceiving things, seeing, hearing, smelling. Those are all minds. And it's changing all the time. Every moment we're having different perceptions of things. So those are all minds. And then our thoughts and our emotions, those are all minds. So we actually have many minds. And same with the Buddha. The Buddha has many minds. Buddha's mind is also changing every moment. It's still an impermanent phenomena that's changing all the time. But every moment of a Buddha's mind is still omniscient mind and still has all the qualities of enlightenment. So within the Buddha's mind, one aspect of the Buddha's mind is bodhicitta. And the kayas, the 4 kayas, one of them is mind, the Dharmakaya, and that covers, you would say the whole of Buddha's mind. Every aspect of Buddha's mind would be Dharmakaya, would be omniscient mind with all those qualities. So that kaya, the Dharmakaya, would be mind. But the other 3 are not mind. The other 3 kayas are not mind. The nature body, nature kaya, svabhava vika kaya, I can never say that one. That's the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, emptiness of enlightened mind. And emptiness is not mind. Emptiness is it's actually a permanent phenomena. So it's not mind, it's a quality. Emptiness is a quality of Buddha's mind, or any object. It's a quality, but itself isn't mind. And then the other 2 kayas are form bodies. So they are actually form manifested from enlightened mind. So, but they themselves are not mind. That's, I think, my understanding. So it's like from Buddha's mind can come a person. Buddha's mind might manifest a human being here in our presence. Maybe someone in this room is a manifestation of enlightenment. We don't know. So Buddha's mind can manifest a form, but that form itself is not mind. So it's an appearance of the mind. So bodhicitta, you're asking what's the relationship between bodhicitta and the 4 kayas. So bodhicitta would be one aspect of the Dharmakaya, enlightened mind. But the other 3 kayas are not mind, so we can't say that they are bodhicitta. But they're related to bodhicitta in that it's because of bodhicitta, because of the Buddha's incredible compassion and the wish to benefit sentient beings, because of that they do manifest in these different forms, like the Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. So those are motivated by bodhicitta, but they themselves are not bodhicitta. I don't know if that makes sense. That's as much as I understand.
So my question is how to make progress on cultivating bodhicitta
when, for example, one lives in a very impoverished area. And so feelings of, loving kindness, compassion are kind of conflicting with the intention to help because one is also trying to meet basic needs. So how best to make progress there?
Well, you don't have to be rich to, to practice the Dharma. What we're trying to do is cultivate, these positive thoughts and aspirations for sentient beings, wanting them to be happy and free of suffering. But when it comes to acting those thoughts out and actually helping others, helping sentient beings, that has to be in accordance with one's means. So if you are rich, if you have plenty of, funds and resources of your own, and you have extra that you can share with others, then that's fine. But if you're not able to do that, then there's other ways of helping sentient beings, doing volunteer work, just helping your neighbors or volunteering in a, place, food bank or whatever, hospice. So that's a way of helping sentient beings. And helping spiritually by cultivating these qualities and making prayers and so on and so forth. So those are also ways. Because like for us here, we're monastics, and Buddhist monastics, we're not supposed to have a lot of personal property and so on. We're supposed to live very, very simple lives. So there's not a whole lot we do in terms of, monetary giving to others. If we have extra food, we give it to the local food bank, and some people volunteer in local organizations. So our main job is giving Dharma. So we're training ourselves to learn the Dharma so that we can teach it. And we do go out and give talks and so on, and online talks. But also just by living in accordance with the Buddhist teachings, living ethically and cultivating these positive qualities, that itself is a way of helping others. So you simply have to find within your situation what you are able to do, and do that and be happy with that. And you can also aspire, I hope to have more resources in the future with which I can help others, or more skills with which I can help others. So, there's all different ways of being of benefit to others. So you do have to be practical and also take care of yourself. If you give away all your own money and your house and so on, then, that might be hard to then sustain yourself. And also if you have other family members that are dependent on you, you also have to look after them.
Venerable, the 7 points cause and effect for bodhicitta as well as the Tonglen is absence in the other schools like Theravada or Chinese Mahayana, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, in the Theravada tradition, they don't have the method for developing bodhicitta. They do have the 4 measurables. So, they do. I don't know if everyone in the Theravada tradition meditates on those. My understanding is it's not required, but it's an option. So there are many in the Theravada tradition who do those meditations, cultivating immeasurable love and compassion and so on. But I've also heard, I remember when I was in Singapore, Venerable Dhammaratana, the head monk of the Buddhist library, told me that in Sri Lanka there are monks who generate bodhicitta, who generate the aspiration to become a Buddha. So they know about. I think it is there. I think in some of the volumes, Library Wisdom and Compassion, maybe even this volume, I don't remember, but there are, she includes teachings from the Pali Canon about bodhisattva path and the perfections. It's somewhat different than in our tradition, but the information is there, and whether or not everybody knows about it and practices it is something else, but it is there. And definitely in the Pali Canon, there's knowledge about bodhisattvas, because that's what the Buddha did. Before he became a Buddha, he was a bodhisattva. So they certainly know about the existence of bodhisattvas and the bodhisattva's path, but it may not be as detailed as in our Mahayana scriptures. And as far as Chinese Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, they do have the knowledge of bodhisattvas, but whether they have this kind of step-by-step method for developing bodhicitta, I don't know. I haven't looked into that. But again, in those volumes, Venerable Children has brought in material from the Pali tradition and also the Chinese tradition about these topics. So
Recited the 10 great vows of Vasubandhu when they were going to build the Jotamo.
yeah,
And that's from the Chinese tradition.
yeah. Yeah, I've read all the volumes so far, but I don't remember every single detail. But I do remember there was definitely some material from the Chinese tradition about the Bodhisattva's path. Maybe not exactly the same as this, but similar. Yeah, I don't know if they have this idea of meditating on all sentient beings as your mother. I'm not sure if that exists. They do? Yeah? That you see everyone as your mother? Yeah, okay, that's great. Because it came from the Buddha. The Buddha talked about it. So, yeah, whether you take that up as a meditation topic or not is something else. But okay, so we'll finish there. And if there's other questions, I know Venerable Pende had her hand up. I'm sorry. But we'll do it in the afternoon session.